Welcome to Peaceful Power Conversations. Peaceful Power Project is a podcast dedicated to mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health and well-being. I am so excited to have Ryann Watkin on the podcast today. Ryann, we've been in and out of contact over the years. I must have signed up for a newsletter or just updates about like your offerings and what you do for many years because I was looking up our most recent interaction. I'm like, oh, I've we've been at this for a while. I think even into the like teens, like the 20 teens.
Yep, back in
So
the day.
I'm really excited, number one, to meet you today, to have this conversation. I did a bit of, I don't like using the word like binge listening, but I did consume a, a good bit of your podcast over this past preparation of having this conversation today. And oh my goodness, I feel like you took the words out of my brain and just put them in such a like so beautiful. So definitely visit Ryan's podcast. So good. I am going to read the bio, so the official bio, to introduce Ryann to any of the listeners who do not know her. And I would like you, Ryann, to listen to the words you chose to speak to who you are and what you do. You know, we're given these like, here's 20 sentences, and how do you choose to kind of put you out there? So here's the bio. Ryann Watkin is host of Raising Wild Hearts podcast, a longtime educator and homeschooling mom of 3. She believes we can change the world by starting at home, in our own minds and hearts, and that self-discovery should start as early as possible. Love it. Are you still homeschooling?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I like saw or heard something in the podcast here that maybe you like went back and forth, but you're still homeschooling?
We're homeschooling this year, and yes, we have gone back and forth. I am a person who is non-committal. I switched midwives 4 times with my first daughter. Like I'm like, if it's not working, like let's jump ship. So we've gone back and forth. Actually, I never thought I'd be a homeschooler. 2020 came around and I was like, well, this is happening, I guess. Like, okay, God, okay, universe, I guess I'm doing this. So I was never intending on being a homeschooler, but as life would have it, here I am.
How is it hearing kind of your mission and the titles that you connected with when creating your bio? How did it feel listening to it?
Yeah, I have tears in my eyes. I do, because it like I said that it resonates with me so deeply. And it's interesting because over the years I've honed in more and more and more. It's so funny that you mentioned like we've been in contact for a long time. I was like, launching a business in 2019 and like focused on being a coach and all these different things. I had a college consulting company when my first daughter was born. And all of those things, I just like, I'm having epiphany moment. I don't know if it's like eclipse season or just what's going on in the world. Like I've done a lot of personal work lately, but it's just, I'm honing in more on my craft. I'm honing in on more why I'm meant to be here. So when I hear you say, change the world by starting at home, truth, like I just hear truth. So it feels really good.
Awesome. I love that. I love that so much. And I could see it too. So many listeners are listening to the podcast, but also I've started to, I don't know if I asked your permission yet, if I could also post it on YouTube and use the
Totally.
video. So
That's great.
yeah, but it's really impactful because I could see and feel you receiving your words as well. So that was part of learning more about your homeschool journey. I only have 2 daughters, but we homeschooled until I would say like first and third grade respectively for the girls. Last year they finished. So, and we were like opposite. We intended to be homeschool families forever. So when COVID came around, I'm like, or like that time came around, I'm like, we got this down. And then my work life, what do you call it? Like slice of the pie changed. And
Yep.
my work, it evolved into what it is. And it could in 3 years be something different. It could in 6 months be something different. So
Yep.
I love that. Did you use the word non-committal?
Yeah. I don't like, and I always think of my husband when I say non-committal because we've been married for 10 years. So I'm committal, but I think I have this if it's not working, like I'm not afraid to walk away and find something better. And it's good and bad, right? There's nothing perfect. There's no perfect community. There's no perfect school. There's no perfect co-op. There's no perfect midwife, so but if I have an inkling of this doesn't feel right, I'm like, I'm out. So non-committal, I guess, in a nutshell.
I love that intuition, like you saying, like, I just trust my intuition and can navigate from that heart space of being intuitive, and really dropped in. But also, it's life, right? Trying to, I'm sticking with a word like commitment. I think you're very committed to the intention, which is ever growing and evolving, right? It's like organic, like an organism. So I'll hop on whatever word you choose because I'm definitely in that same vibration. When you say that it begins in the home, um, what could you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So I remember feeling as a kid too small to make a difference. And I don't know which problem of the day it was. It was, probably something on the news, maybe even something within my own home, right? That felt big and heavy and scary. And I remember thinking, like, I'm too small to make a difference. I don't have a voice. I don't have authority. I'm not sovereign. I'm property of my caregivers. And I'm too small. I can't make a difference in the world and I can't make a difference at home. I remember that like really strongly. And as I grew, as I evolved and changed and grew into a woman eventually, which didn't happen till I was about 30. I mean, it really, woman and mother happened simultaneously for me. I don't think that's a coincidence, but I started to realize that the only thing I could control or shift was right here, heart, mind, body, soul. Like this is it in this like bubble that we live in. And it's like the good news and the bad news. Like we really have to take a look within and figure out what holds us back, what makes us act like assholes, when we're not at our finest, when we're radiating joy, when we have that feeling of like just pure bliss, right? So the self-discovery piece. That's how it started with me, was self-discovery. What do I like? What are my needs? What are my wants? So what are my wishes and my dreams, my desires? And my children, one of them in particular, is what you would call a strong-willed child or a highly sensitive child or neurodivergent. For me, those are kind of all interwoven. They're kind of all interchangeable. And she gave me a run for my money, for lack of a better way to put it. And I realized, I mean, she was 9 months old and she like wouldn't eat her like peas or kale or whatever I had in front of her, sweet potatoes or something. And I got so mad that I had this like she had this little like silver sippy cup and I was walking away like into the hallway and I like slammed this silver sippy cup into the wall and dented it. Like, and I'm like, I'm a monster. I just slammed my 9-month-old child's sippy cup into the wall and dented it. And I see it here. And it's like this, one of these many moments where I'm like, looking at myself going like, what are you doing? And how could that have gone better, Ryann? Like, how could you have done that better? And so it's these little moments that are seemingly insignificant. It's when someone cuts us off in traffic. It's when the neighbor, says something that you don't agree with and you walk away with your family. What is it that you say about that neighbor? Who is it that you choose to be in that moment? What example are you showing for your kids? Because we all know at this point that the ripple effect is real. Like, it's real. What we bring to the table is rippling out, and it starts with us. And so when we can be present, calm, compassionate, still feel all the feelings, don't get me wrong, we still feel it. We still have that want to dent the sippy cup moment, but we choose not to dent the sippy cup, right? We feel the feelings and we show our children, we show the kids in our community, we show our neighbors, our partners, our friends how to be calm, loving, and present. And that just ripples out.
And so, well, I had a few thoughts. I'll try to like separate them. The first was the word that came up for me in the beginning part of your story was the word trigger, and how we react or respond when triggered. And then I heard surrounding that is that, coming like learning how to be more patient, and like where did that come from? I call her spicy. I have a child who like literally like it will be cold and she'll say it's hot just to say it's hot. We call her like contrarian. I will have a little aside here that I had a parent teacher conference. The teacher does it with everybody. And apparently she's a different human being in school. Like the teacher was shocked. I kind of made one of those probably not the best comments, and like, because your sister's this way and she's this way. And she's like, she's that way? Like, and anyway, so apparently it's all saved. The comforting thing I've always heard is it's saved for the ones that you feel safest with. So yay for that. But I recall feeling that I was always triggered. And that came up in you telling the story. And I was listening to a podcast, Harmony in the Home, and it was just like crazy blinking lights for me that were like, this human, first of all, 9 months, even now she's like 7. Like, I feel like she's so old. She certainly owns it, but still 7-year-old child. She's not, even though it really seems like it, she is not there pushing my buttons. She's not there like, how can I do this thing for these results? There's not that type of like cognitive functioning yet. Yes, I understand that, but I do still relate to trigger as something is triggered within me. I am trigger. And it was an episode of Harmony in the Home where I realized one of the things that would have me throw a sippy cup, but in my own way, like, raise my voice or, do something that I would not like to react in such a way, but I do. And it was the sibling rivalry. And I realized that I'd been an only child. I feel like I had some negative experiences and consequences due to being an only child. It was not, I would have chosen a sister if I wanted actually I wanted an older brother my whole life. That was just like a little dream. But the trigger was like, you've got each other. Like why aren't you just playing? You're the same, like they're like 23 months apart. I'm like, you have a friend in your house. And so just that idea of like you said, the peace starting within you, or the life, like your experience in life starting within you, but same with the triggers as well. So that's the first thing I heard in your story. And what do you feel about, well, and we'll keep it in the like parent mental, emotional, like health and well-being. What do you feel about trigger, the word trigger or triggers?
Yeah, I think it's important to, it's interesting because all these like therapy terms are like so mainstream now. Everybody knows what trigger means, which is great. Like it's great. And like it's not, something out there. It's just, it's one more opportunity for us to go inside and go, where's this coming from? Because it's not just coincidental that my kid didn't want to eat her peas and kale and that I got mad. Like, it's not a coincidence. It's something that's deep, buried within me, subconsciously, most likely, that made me have this reaction. So I think it's really important for us to start to become aware of them. And honestly, like, it's not, I'm a very much like perfect kind of a person, like maybe perfectionism tendencies. If if it's not going to be perfect, then why do it or why bother? And I think it's a good opportunity for me to realize that it's practice, like years of like lifelong practice. Like it's not like, oh, okay, we finally know our triggers and now we're done. There's like layers to these things. So I think it's good. I think it's a good word to be mainstream. I think it's a good word to be aware of. And I like the word, I don't know if you've heard it, the word glimmer. It's like a nice little balance. Like we've got triggers and glimmers, and we need both.
And that brings me to the second thought I had, though I remembered two other things that I get worked up about, and it has nothing to do with them. And one is food related, and because you said the peas, and not wanting them to have food issues like I did as a child, like, and then, but also not wanting them to eat blue food. And so that was one of them. And then one of the things that trigger like comes out not as I would like is money talk, and how to navigate that. But it's super weird with kids though, because you can't buy everything. Like they just, I don't want to like squash, because now I hear like how to repair your money mindset because your parents said we can't afford this. But I'm like, but they really want like everything all the time. So that's
Yes,
always a
they
tricky one.
do. That
So,
is. I love that.
yeah, I don't want to tell them we can't afford this, but I'm just
Right.
like, this was, and then we do talk budget and they're at an age where they can digest that. But I really don't want them to take on the like scarcity, but
Right. I noticed that we have this pendulum thing. So like the issues that we had when we were kids were a lot of the times overcompensating for our kids not to have those issues. And so there's like this like equilibrium. There's like this neutral sweet spot where we can land. I love that you talked about money triggers. One time my sister was with us and we were out at a store and my daughter picked something up and my sister goes, well, that's just really expensive. And I go, no, we don't use the word expensive. She goes, you don't use the word expensive? I'm like, I don't know. Like this was, beginning to unravel that money stuff. And she thought that was really funny and kind of crazy. And, one thing I always go to is like, we don't buy everything every time we go somewhere, acknowledge the want, acknowledge the desire for the thing. You really want that because da 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 da. And we don't buy everything, sometimes we go, but I'll keep it in mind. I've been saying lately, I'll keep it in mind. So my daughter just said the other day, you'll keep it in mind, right, Mom? I'm like, I got it. Keeping it in mind.
totally stolen, or I'll borrow
Yeah.
that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll take a picture for your birthday.
Picture. Yeah. Yeah.
But so you did bring me back to like the second thought was what we show. And I saw something, and it's someone I don't know if they listen to this podcast, but it's someone I really do respect and like. And they posted something about this wise old yogi, and he was saying like, don't let your and I'm just really curious about your thoughts on this. Don't let your children see frustration and anger and disgust and all of that. Let them see joy, and let them see joy. And I'm before I even share like my response to it, what do you um what do you hear when you like hear that little like clip? And it sounded wise because again, it was an older indie. I don't know the exact like guru or teacher that it was, but it was like only let them see joy. And so what are your thoughts?
Here's what's coming up for me with that is that I'm just going towards like the more human path. That's possibly like a through line in everything I'm doing. Like aside from like the help from AI, like in editing my podcast and like producing it, that has been like, okay, this is cool and unique and interesting and easier. But I'm going towards the more human in most everything I do, in the education we choose, in the way we raise our kids, in the way we, my husband and I have a relationship, like more human. And to me, the more human thing is seeing the full range of emotions. And then I do think that there's an element right now of spiritual bypassing, pretend like it doesn't exist. And that's what we've been doing already. And that's not working for anybody. Pretending like terror doesn't exist. I mean, and I'm not saying terror out there, I'm saying terror in here. Like pretending that fear and anger and resentment, like pretending those things don't exist, it's just not real. And our kids, unfortunately, they're wiser than we are. And so they can feel and smell out a bullshitter. Like they feel the energy in the room. They're reading it. Many of the kids that are coming through right now are highly sensitive, very empathetic, and they know what's going on without any words being spoken out of your mind. So for me, my kids have seen me, you know, balled up on the floor. Like, I mean, and not not all the time, not like developmentally appropriate. Like, I am so sad right now, or I am so frustrated right now. And for me, I think that for them to see the full range of that emotion, because I know that they have the full range of emotion. And so for them to see, okay, mom's feeling this way, it's not killing her. She's safely expressing it to us, right? I guess it's okay to feel this way. So that's what comes up for me. Let them feel it all.
Yeah, that was my first response. And I do apologize if I like took it the wrong way, but I think my first response was like a bit defensive, like, oh my gosh, my kids have seen me in all ranges. But I just feel like when they have big feelings, if they see this like and I will go like generationally, if they see this June Cleaver, like always a smile, always a clean house, and everything is just perfect, and we can let it roll off. Then when they have big feelings, it might be perceived as something being wrong. So I whenever I like show a feeling, there's discussion again, if it's on a range that's like sadness or the tougher emotions, we'll have conversation. But I feel like it'll let them know when those big feelings come that it's a safe thing. And like you said, that mom's okay.
Right. Well, and if you think of where passion comes from, like you're passionate about this podcast. I'm passionate about my podcast. I'm passionate about spreading this message to the world. If you think about where passion comes from, it doesn't necessarily come from like the joyous and like blissful parts of our lives. Like I'm sitting here today talking about this because I have freaking struggled. And, so to name that struggle, to get fuel from that struggle, I think is really important. So to show our kids like this injustice that happened really made you mad. Now, feel that feeling, let it go, whatever's not yours, and use it for fuel. Use it for grist for the mill and use it to make what you want. Use it to make a better world. I mean, I think it's fire. I think it's all kind of fire. So I think it's almost if we could turn it into positive, we can.
I love it. And so that brings us to your podcast. So I didn't realize that you had returned to your podcast until I heard the episode that was like, I'm returning. So where is your podcast at now? What is your kind of vision or intention? I hear the passionate messages that you want to get out there. I love, I'm trying to find the one. Um, Maybe I have to look. It was something like What Keeps Me Up at Night. Was that an episode?
Yes. I think that might have been the trailer. And
Okay.
I was wrestling with like, what's keeping me up at night? Am I doing this for me or am I doing this for my kids? Like, are any of us out here doing what we're doing in the world for us or for our kids? Like, again, that pendulum swing that like, we want our kids to have it better than we had. We want to do a better job, you know? So, like, finding that equilibrium between those two things again.
So that was one that got to me. And then the worst parts of parenting episode too. That was like, oh, I have to get this woman into this room, into this space.
Right.
So I loved that one. And then you do interviews as well. So yeah, where are you at with your podcast again? Raising Wild Hearts.
Yeah. So Raising Wild Hearts it was always Raising Wild Hearts. I started my podcast in 2018 under the original name of the Happy Moms Show. And I wanted to bust this myth of happy, that happy was like this rainbow and butterfly concept. And so I talked a lot about happiness being a long-term game, not a short-term game. So it's happiness is the ability to feel all those emotions, the entire range of emotions, and then still just be thriving in your life, right? And so I was kind of busting this myth, and I had a kind of an acquaintance and a colleague help me out with that name. And in the back of my mind, it was like Raising Wild Hearts, Raising Wild Hearts. I had already had the Instagram handle, like and something stopped me. And then so anyway, after I had my third child, when I was pregnant and breastfeeding, I was just so focused on creation. Like, I don't know, our bodies are amazing. And all my creative energy was going to this little being. And so I took a huge, long sabbatical. I thought I was going to be back in a year. I had a baby and, life happened. So when I came back, I was so clear of like, it's Raising Wild Hearts. We're stopping generational trauma. We're the cycle breakers. We're changing the world by starting at home. Like, this is it. So yeah, I say in one of the episodes, like, I have no idea where we're going because I had to start. I had to start before I was ready. I wasn't really ready, but I had to just go. Like, I'm like, all right, go, like, record, we're going. And I was like, guys, I don't know where we're going, but we're going somewhere great. Like, I don't know what it is, but we're going to do it. And so I've really, what's filling me up right now is like the interviews. So talking to people about parenting. We've talked about collaborative parenting, conscious parenting, gentle parenting, all the different names out there that is basically the same thing, all bundled up nice and cute into a great name. And so, yeah, that's what I'm passionate about right now. I'd love to harness the power of my authenticity and my voice even more. There are things I want to talk about that feel really important, the things that are going on in the world, it just, so I'm harnessing this like courage to really stand in my truth and make that be a game changer for people. I want to inspire and empower mothers to do it your way, like not my way, like do it your way. I've always been like, and I'm a 4 Enneagram, which is the individualist. Like, I'm a rebel at heart. I'm like, non-committal, whatever. I'm like, you can do it your way. Like, if something doesn't feel good, shift it. If you don't like what the government is telling you, don't do it. If you don't like what your kid's school is teaching them, go in there. And I'm not saying to like go in there with a pitchfork and a witch hat, but what I am saying is like go in there and say, hey, like, how can I bring mindfulness classes to my kids' school? How can I bring a more holistic view of education? So it's to be an advocate in your own life for yourself first, and then also for your kids and what they're learning and what they're exposed to. And again, it all comes back to, this is how we change the world. Like, get on your soapbox and do something about it in your own life and get the courage and empowerment and inspiration from me. Like I'm doing this thing. Like, let's all do it. Come along with me.
I love it. So many things. I love starting before you're ready, because I started this podcast in 2020 and it was just meditations and mindfulness tools, because I say this in like a way that this is my dharma or my path or my purpose, but I really could do that stuff not in my sleep, but it's part of me. And I was so in my comfort zone, and it was 2020, and I was putting it out there, and I was working actually where I still work, but I was facilitating yoga and mindfulness groups for mental health, like adolescents and young adults. So I was just like putting these meditations out there. And then my friend Todd, who owns Native Yoga, he's Native Yoga Toddcast, and he had me on an interview that I'd rather sit in this seat any day. But so I like was so hot and sweaty the whole like really hard, but I was also putting stuff out there and wanted a different platform to share. So he gave me that opportunity. Big honor, like to this day. I'm like, I want to interview someone. So reciprocally, he was my first interview. And so goofy, I'll listen to the playbacks and I'm like, hi, welcome to, I mean, I was just like, that's my voice. And in the beginning, I wasn't comfortable with like conversation. I would basically just let the person talk for like 45 minutes because I didn't know how to respond. And so definitely like jumping in before, and I'm still like in the way in like infant stage. I'm beyond newborn, but so I definitely get like
You're a
hopping
toddler
in.
now.
Yeah, hopping. Oh yeah,
We're
hopping
I'm a
in
toddler too.
before we're ready. I
Yeah.
also love that the guests are the most exciting thing on your podcast, and that you represent a lot of methodologies and parenting philosophies. The one I listened to is the gentleman who talked about self-regulation, which like with I believe it was with breath work.
Adam Hart.
I believe so, but that
Yeah.
was, I love that episode.
Yeah. Me too.
Um, and that again, you're into like inspiring and empowering others to do the same, but in their own way, do the same, but do it their way. Um, so that is really exciting. And then just the not knowing where it's going, but it's going somewhere.
Yeah. Like,
Super powerful. Are you still, so the business that I was getting the emails from, is that something that you are still working on, the coaching, the support in that way?
so here's what I'm really passionate about right now. That kind of fell off because in 2020, when my kids' preschool closed down, they were attending a fabulous play-based preschool here locally in Delray, Sunflower Creative Arts. Shout out to Sunflower, we love you. And then they were also going to Montessori school. So their school shut down, and I was like, "Ew, now what?" And I was trying to like work from home and like get coaching clients a little bit. And I was like, I'm done. I just sometimes when things just need to fall away, you just need to like loosen the grip and let them fall. And so that's kind of what happened to the coaching biz. It's like, it just like, I loosened my grip very reluctantly and I just like let it fall. I felt like I had done a lot of work, up until that point. I had spent thousands of dollars on business coaching. I had, hired mentors. I was like posting on social media and trying to be this like digital creator. And so like to loosen my grip on letting that fall was challenging. What's interesting to me right now is this, obviously. It's spreading a message, it's creating a ripple effect, it's helping support parents in their homes be the best version of themselves, because we want our kids to thrive, we want them to be happy, we want them to be successful, but it all starts with us, with our soul care. It's not even self-care anymore, it's soul care. So it starts here. And my newest, I guess if you want to even call it a business venture, I'm like hesitant to even say that, is I just started a class, a heart-centered leadership class for girls ages 6 to 9, 10-ish. And I had my first class yesterday. We had our first class yesterday, and it's one of the most exciting things I've ever done in my life. I mean, so it's like all coming full circle. Had I not opened this college consulting company and, dabbled in that and realized like, oh, this isn't for me and this is why. And then dabbled with this like I'm a coach thing because like all these online coaches were coming out. I was like, oh, I want to do what she does. That looks fun. I could do that. Like, had I not dabbled in that, and then had I not let everything go and just gone like, you know what, I'm just going to be a mom for a little bit, then this wouldn't be here now. And so I'm taking this little opportunity, this little like glean of inspiration I got literally from the universe. One night I was like on the verge of like getting this like cold, and I could feel myself kind of getting chills. And it was like a friend says it's expressing healing. It's not getting sick. It's expressing healing. And so I was expressing healing one night and had just this like visceral reaction of like the download, like of this is the class. This is what it's all about. Before I knew it, I had 2 full pages of notes, and I was like, I guess I'm putting this class on. Like, I guess I'm doing this. And it wasn't forcing it. It wasn't pushing it. It just was like, here's this little, gift. And this is what I'm meant to do right now. And so that's what I'm really excited about now. I am an entrepreneur at heart. I am a work for myself kind of a girl, and always have been, even though I haven't always worked for myself. So yeah, so that is going to evolve. I just had a parent right now before this call. We had a quick Zoom because her daughter missed yesterday and she wanted to kind of get caught up. And she goes, I know that we just started, but like, are you going to do another one? Everybody's going like, when's the next one? And we're only 1 weekend of this one. And so there's something here, and it's big and still just little. Like it's just local here in Palm Beach County, like, 9 girls just like getting together, talking about leadership, talking about their heart, talking about their dreams, their vision, realizing what it is to be grounded in this earth, realize it's called roots and blooms. So we talked about like our roots ground us to earth. Our blooms are the gifts that we have to share with ourselves and with others. And to learn that information at 7 years old, like this is how we change the world. 7-year-olds walking around knowing what their gifts are, knowing how to support themselves and ask for what they want and support the women around them and support the girls around them, stepping into when they get their cycles and knowing that that is a superpower, that we are synced with the moon. I mean, if that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. So it's, in a long answer, I'm very excited about what is to come in my business. And, it will be Raising Wild Hearts LLC at some point, and I'll be doing classes here locally. And yeah.
That's so beautiful and so needed, especially right now. And that you shifted from parents to the kiddos as well, because it is something that gets forgotten in motherhood or in parenting, that these are like they're separate beings. They're actually not ours. Like I really have stopped saying like my my daughter. She is, I'm not gonna say her name on here, but like this is a child that is a wild heart, and the other one's actually been inspired to be a bit wilder in heart as well. But so that these young girls are treated as people, as whole beings. I love that, and that the offering is for them.
Right. Well, I just had Cara Terrell. She's got a master's in education, and she's a kind of a toddler expert, ages 0 through 5. But she talks about a wide range of things, and she talked about like, again, our kids not being ours. Like individuation is our whole gig as parents. We're not here to like mold them into who we think we are. We're not here to like mold them into star soccer players or gymnasts or A+ Harvard bound kids. We're here to just facilitate their coming into their own being. That's it. And while that is not a popular way to think about it, because in our society we want to, again, grip on, we want to collect people, they're ours, it's a special relationship, it's, and it's hard to shift that from, it's not our kids, like the kids that live in our home, it's our kids collectively in our community and in our state and in our country. We can get bigger and bigger and bigger, but right now let's focus on the kids in our community. And that's another benefit of raising our children in this way, is that they go out and ripple that into the community. Their peers then see a thriving, grounded, passionate kid, and they go, hey, how did that happen? So
beautiful. You should come in to our school, like up here. But is that part of the vision, or is it more with with the homeschool community?
oh yeah, it's absolutely part of the vision to get into schools too. And I just like kind of started where I was. I'm like, I have all these communities. I've been in the homeschool community for 4 years. I know all these parents. I've met all these parents. I've interacted with all these parents. Let me start with, all the people I know. And I did, and it still branched out to people I know who knew somebody else who knew somebody else. So there's this, it's really cool. So yes, the vision would be to go into schools, even to go into like dance studios and, just yoga studios. Yeah, for sure.
So people who are interested in learning more about, because this is just obviously it's just the beginning, and then the podcast is like not the beginning, it's toddlerhood. How are people finding you? Obviously it will be in the show notes, but how do people get in touch with you, ask questions if they're interested in collaborating for podcasts? How do people find you?
Thank you so much. So you can follow me on Instagram at Raising Wild Hearts. That's like kind of where I'm the most. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit too. Those are the two places where I share the content from my podcast. Raisingwildhearts.buzzsprout.com is where you can find the podcast. And please, if you're interested in it, hit subscribe, hit follow. It helps with the stats. It helps get it in front of more mothers and more people who need to hear it. So yeah.
Love it. And then, so for our final question, I ask this question in honor of this podcast being dedicated to mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional health and well-being. You called it soul care. Often the question is, what do you do to take care of yourself, self-care? What does your soul care look like?
I have a sacred yoga practice. I've been practicing Kundalini yoga for 6 years now. That was one of the catalysts for me, really awakening even more and more to who I am and what I came here to do. So that's a beautiful way that I take care of my soul. And, each week the layers come off, and sometimes, it's evolving. It's ever evolving. So that's the biggest thing. I love baths. I love just like soaking in an Epsom salt bath. I get ideas, I get healing, I get like, if you like just be with your body and like massage your body and like rub your hands and rub your feet, like I just love that. Like you don't need to necessarily go to a massage to like have somebody else touch you. Like touch your own body, like love on yourself, right? Those are two of the big ones. And then following my passions, following what interests me, lighting me up. For a really long time, I poured everything into my kids. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Like pour, pour, pour. Like I'm going to be a martyr. I'm going to be the martiest martyr that ever martyred. Like I'm going to just, and I'm so holy because I'm doing it. Like I had this kind of jaded perspective. And then I slowly and quickly realized that that's not what's lighting me up. So following my passions and having my children watch me do that is like the added bonus. But like, what lights me up? What lights you up? Follow that. Just like the tiny breadcrumb, and just keep going. And it doesn't have to lead to a business or a podcast. It may just lead to a journaling practice. It may lead to, meeting a new community, writing a book, and meeting a friend. Like just the smallest breadcrumbs are the biggest self-care, soul care.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that as well. Again, I will piggyback on what Ryann said. If you had any takeaways from this podcast, let us know. Tag us anywhere. If you're watching this on YouTube, the little subscribe and a comment. Apple Podcast, the review. I think there's even some way to be interactive on Spotify now. It truly takes a small amount of time, but makes the biggest impact. It's also, besides like visibility, I want to know, I see people listening. I want to know who you are because I don't a lot of times. I'm like, wow, there are these people. So I would just love to connect and to know your takeaways from this episode. And as always, wishing you all peace, power, and presence.